I thought I had it all. My name's Mark, and for the last 12 years, I've been married to Emily. She's the kind of woman who knows how to make everyone around her feel like she's their best friend. Smart, beautiful, confident. Basically, she's always been the star of every room we walked into together. I was proud to be her husband. I thought I was the luckiest man alive. But here's the thing, I never saw the cracks forming. For most of our marriage, everything seemed perfect. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing major. We had the house, the vacations, the social circles. Hell, we even hosted the best parties. People would look at us and think we were the perfect couple. Or so I thought. The trouble started subtly. A couple of years ago, Emily started acting different. She'd always been busy with work. She's a high-powered executive, but suddenly, she became busier. More nights out, more work dinners, more time with her friends. At first, I didn't think much of it. I trusted her. She was Emily, my wife, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. Besides, she always had an explanation for everything. And I'll admit it, I didn't want to be that guy who gets paranoid every time his wife steps out the door. It wasn't until a few months ago that the whole facade came crashing down. Out of the blue, I received an anonymous message. It was one of those moments where your stomach drops, but you can't stop reading. The message included pictures, videos, and texts between Emily and not just one man, but several. It was shocking, and what really crushed me was the fact that one of her lovers was my own brother, Dan. I'll never forget sitting at the kitchen table, staring at my phone, trying to process what I was seeing. There was Emily, my wife, caught on camera with these guys. One night it was a guy from her office, another night someone I didn't even recognize. And then there was Dan, my brother. They were laughing, touching, like they were having the time of their lives. I felt sick. It wasn't just sex, it was the lying, the sneaking around, and the way she seemed to enjoy betraying me. The worst part? Emily had acted so normal, even sweet, towards me the entire time. We still went out for dinners, she still told me she loved me every night before bed. And the entire time, she was screwing around behind my back. I didn't confront her right away. I needed time to process everything. I couldn't believe she'd betray me like this, and with my own brother no less. What kind of person does that? I thought about confronting Dan first, but I decided that would come later. I had to think of something bigger, something that would make them all pay for what they did to me. I'm not going to lie, the rage I felt was blinding. But I knew I had to keep my cool if I wanted to pull off what I was planning. I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to ruin her. She thought she could play me, but she had no idea what was coming. I spent weeks planning. Every detail had to be perfect. There was no way Emily, Dan, or any of her other lovers would see this coming. I didn't just want to humiliate her. I wanted to make sure she never forgot the pain she'd caused. And I had the perfect plan. I was going to throw her a surprise party. But this wasn't going to be any ordinary party. The day of the party, I played it cool. I acted like everything was normal, like I hadn't seen the filth she'd been up to. I invited all of her lovers, including Dan. I even made sure her parents, our friends, and my family were all there. Emily had no clue. She strutted around the house that morning, probably thinking she still had me fooled. Little did she know, I had all the evidence queued up, ready to expose her in front of everyone she ever cared about. When the guests arrived, everyone was in a festive mood. Emily walked in, surprised as I had planned. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and thanked me for being such a thoughtful husband. That's when I took the mic and told everyone I had a special slideshow for the birthday girl. The room went quiet, and I could feel Emily's eyes on me, probably expecting some sappy tribute about how much I loved her. But oh no. I hit play, and the screen lit up with the first video, Emily and Dan, in my brother's apartment, doing things I won't even describe. The gasps in the room were deafening. Emily's face went white. She stammered, tried to speak, but before she could, I hit play on the next clip. Another man, another encounter, more evidence of her pathetic lies. At that moment, I turned to Emily, who was frozen, her eyes wide, mouth trembling. "Surprise," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Happy birthday, Emily. I thought everyone should see just how special you've been." She stood there, humiliated, her fake smile gone. The room was dead silent. Everyone was staring at her, my family, her family, even the men she'd been sleeping with, all of them now knowing they'd been part of her disgusting game. But I wasn't done. You think that's bad? I said, walking towards her. I've been busy too. You know those joint accounts, the house, the car? All yours, right? Not anymore. I've been transferring every last asset into my name for weeks now. You're officially broke. Everything you've built, everything you think you own? Gone. Emily's face was a mask of pure horror. She opened her mouth to say something, but nothing came out. She was caught. She thought she could manipulate me, lie to me, cheat on me, and I would just take it. But now, she was left standing there in the wreckage of her own life, stripped of everything. As I watched Emily crumble, I felt something strange. Part of me had expected to feel relief, satisfaction even, seeing her humiliated and ruined in front of everyone. But instead, I felt a deep emptiness. It wasn't just anger anymore, it was pure sadness. This woman, the one I had loved and built a life with, had destroyed everything, and for what? A few cheap thrills? The woman standing in front of me, trembling and speechless, was a stranger. For weeks, I had been living off pure rage, carefully planning every step of this revenge. I wanted to see her suffer, to feel what I had felt when I found out she had been screwing my brother and God knows who else. I wanted her to understand that she couldn't just walk all over me, lie to my face, and think she'd get away with it. And I got that, didn't I? She was standing there, exposed for the fraud she was, with nowhere to run. But it didn't feel the way I thought it would. Sure, I was still furious. Furious at her, at Dan, at myself for not seeing the signs sooner. But there was this overwhelming sadness that hit me like a ton of bricks. Everything we had built, every memory, every moment I thought was real, was all a lie. I wasn't just losing my wife that day, I was losing my entire past. That was what hurt the most. And then there was Dan. My own brother, standing there, avoiding my gaze, like the coward he was. How could he do this to me? We grew up together. We shared everything, and this is how he repays me? By sneaking around with my wife behind my back? He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. That, more than anything, made me realize how deep this betrayal ran. It wasn't just Emily who had broken me, it was my own blood. Emily finally found her voice and started sobbing, begging for forgiveness. She swore it was a mistake, said she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was lost. Lost? Please. She wasn't lost when she was sneaking off with my brother, or when she was sending dirty texts to half the men in our social circle. She was only sorry because she got caught, and now she had nothing. Watching her fall apart didn't bring me the closure I thought it would. It was just sad. Everything we had built, all those years, gone in an instant. And I realized that no matter how much I had planned, no matter how much I wanted to ruin her, it didn't change the fact that I had been living a lie. The anger gave me purpose, but it didn't take away the pain. After the shock and sadness hit me, the reality of what needed to happen became clear. There was no saving this, no reconciliation, no counseling that could fix what she and Dan had done. It was over. I had spent too long being angry, plotting this whole public revenge to make her pay, and now that it was done, all that was left was to close this chapter for good. I looked around the room. Her parents were in shock, just standing there, unable to process what their perfect daughters had done. My family, friends, all silent, waiting for what would happen next. Dan still couldn't look at me. I wanted to beat the crap out of him, but that would have been too easy. No, what I had planned next would hurt them all more than any punch ever could. I turned back to Emily, who was sobbing uncontrollably now, trying to stumble over apologies. I cut her off. Save it, I said coldly. You're not sorry for what you did. You're only sorry because you're standing here, exposed, and broke. This isn't about you anymore, Emily. It's about me taking back control of my life. I walked over to the table where I had neatly stacked some papers. This, I said, holding up the divorce papers, is how this ends. I'm done. You're done. I want nothing to do with you after today. The tears came harder from her, but I wasn't moved. I tossed the papers on the table and turned to leave, but then I remembered the final twist. The one thing I hadn't told her yet. Oh, and before I forget, there's one more thing. I looked straight at Dan. I know you two thought you were clever. Thought you were getting one over on me. But guess what? I've been in touch with Emily's latest lover. The room gasped again. Apparently, even Dan didn't know about him. He's just as sick of her as I am, and let's just say he's going to help me make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person she is. Emily's face drained of all color as she realized what was coming. What do you mean? She stammered, her voice barely a whisper. You'll see soon enough, I said with a smirk. By the end of the week, your reputation will be shredded. Your career? Every bridge you've built in your little perfect life? Burnt to the ground. You think you've been playing me and everyone else, but guess what, Emily? We've all been playing you. I could see the weight of my words sink in as she stood there, shaking. She knew I wasn't bluffing. She knew what was coming next, and there was absolutely nothing she could do to stop it. All her little lies, all her manipulations, were finally catching up to her. I looked at Dan one last time, shaking my head. You're dead to me, I told him, and the look on his face told me he knew it was true. I walked out of that house without looking back, knowing I had done everything I needed to do. I had destroyed her world just as she had destroyed mine. Walking away from that disaster of a party was the hardest and, weirdly, the easiest thing I've ever done. Hard because I knew that everything I'd built, my marriage, my family, my relationship with my own brother, was gone, shattered beyond repair. But easy because after everything Emily and Dan had done, I knew there was no coming back from it. And honestly, I didn't want to come back from it. I needed to move forward, to get them out of my life for good. In the days that followed, things unfolded exactly as I'd planned. Emily tried to contact me, begging for a second chance, saying she was lost and confused. But I ignored her. I didn't need to hear any more lies. Then, he slithered into hiding, too ashamed to face me or anyone else. And as for Emily's latest lover, he kept his end of the deal. Together, we made sure the world knew about every dirty little secret she had been hiding. Her social circles turned on her, her job vanished in an instant, and the career she'd spent years building crumbled before her eyes. The woman who once had everything now had nothing. I filed for divorce the very next day after the party. It was quick and clean, just the way I wanted it. With everything in my name and nothing left for her to cling to, she was left with no choice but to accept the terms. She signed the papers, and just like that, our marriage was over. 12 years of lies, gone in the stroke of a pen. I won't lie, it still hurt. I thought exposing her and ruining her life would take away the pain, but it didn't. There were nights I lay awake, wondering how I'd been so blind, how the woman I'd loved for so long could have done this to me. But the more time passed, the more I realized that this wasn't about me. This was about her, her selfishness, her inability to stay true to anyone but herself. In the end, I learned that no matter how much you think you know someone, they can always surprise you, and not in a good way. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone reading this, it would be this: trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't ignore the signs like I did. And most importantly, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. As for me, I'm moving on. I'm still picking up the pieces, but I'm getting there. Life without Emily is quieter, but it's also more honest. And for that, I'm grateful. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for watching my videos, sharing them, and supporting me along the way. Your views, comments, and likes are the driving force behind my passion to create captivating and unexpected stories. Every tale I share is more than just a plot. It's a journey of emotions, lessons, and reflections that we experience together. Your engagement brings life and soul to this channel. Thank you for sticking with me until the very end of each video, because the finale of every story is where the real impact lies. I promise to continue delivering twists and turns that surprise, inspire, and resonate with your hearts.